Hello, welcome to the current state of Shonen Jump 2025. I am not Super Eye Patch Wolf because I am not Irish or beautiful, but that's okay. I also unfortunately can't make this video to the standards of an Eye Patch Wolf video thanks to some extenuating circumstances. But I've been reading every series in Weekly Shonen Jump since about 2020, and I've truly seen the highs and the lows, mostly the lows, that this magazine has to offer. I think there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of worry about what the magazine will come since series like JJK and My Hero have ended and One Piece is kind of on its way out. And people are really wondering what the magazine is gonna become without the heavy hitters. Usually by now, there'd be breakout series to take the place of what came before, but we're halfway through the decade and that hasn't really happened. In the 2010s, we had series like Black Clover, Demon Slayer, The Promised Neverland, We Never Learn, and Dr. Stone all come out within the span of 3 years. Meanwhile, what does 2020 have to show for itself? Nashville? Sakamoto Days? Those are all fair, but I think as we've seen, we're kind of expecting a bit more from the magazine than just that, to really meet our expectations about the legendary status of this magazine. Which is why we are going to be doing our own ranking of the Shonen Jump series in this all-new, all-original format. Now, I've conducted this format in 2 ways, quality and trashy, and enjoyable and unreadable, because I do think there's a difference. Quality is about the objective quality of a manga. No matter what I think, no matter what anyone else thinks, I'm trying to figure out how good a manga is on a technical level. Meanwhile, we can juxtapose this vertical axis with the horizontal one, starting with enjoyable, which is just how much I like to read the series. This is entirely subjective, it's entirely up to me, it's just how much I like it. So these mangas will be placed on the scale from quality and trashy and enjoyable to unreadable. As we get to the upper right half, we get to genuine beauty. The best of the best, the greatest manga that can be in the magazine. As you go to the bottom right, it's still enjoyable, but it gets trashy, which is where we get peak slop. You know this is not good for you. You know reading this is probably doing brain damage, but it's really funny. So who cares? As we go to the bottom left, we have the most unreadable and the trashiest manga, which I've called Axe Fate. That just means the editors threw this manga in without a game plan. This series is not good on an objective or subjective level. It's there to pad the magazine out. But as we go to the upper left, we get something that is quality but unreadable, which is pretentious garbage. Something can be good, but that doesn't mean I like it. And my opinion matters the most. So we're gonna start this list off with the easiest, One Piece. Where does One Piece go? I think you all know. It's easy. This is maybe the most quality series in Jump right now. And it's also extremely enjoyable. I think it's really amazing how Oda is able to make a series that is so good, but also so palatable to like literally everyone. One Piece is actually one of those once-in-a-lifetime stories, and like I'm so glad I'm here to experience it right now. There will never be another series like One Piece. Its character writing, its lore, I think everything about it is so perfectly crafted. Okay, maybe not perfectly, but as close as a shonen can be to perfect, you know? I'd say One Piece is a series that is very simple, but very effective in its simplicity. There's a lot to take from kind of how it reflects real life, I think is just so masterfully done that like it can be nowhere but here, very obviously. But that moves into our next series right here, Sakamoto Days. Sakamoto Days, I think for the longest time is like the series everyone hyped up before the anime. And then the anime came out, and things kind of fizzled out. Yeah, that anime adaptation was not great. And then Tunnel Effect happened, and like, bro, yeah, it's not looking great for the series. That does not mean it is a bad series though. I think Sakamoto Days is still like up there in quality. Every week I read Sakamoto Days, it's just action, action, action. It knows what it is, and it is so good for it. I think there's places where you can kind of see the art is not great at like a weekly level. It gets kind of rough around the edges every so often. but like the action direction, the excitement, it is by no means a deep series, but it is extremely enjoyable and good at what it does. So I think I'm gonna put it like here. Is it running out of steam right now? Maybe, but I still enjoy reading it every week. We can leave it there for now. Blue Box, our signature shonen romance crossed with a bit of sports. Blue Box is interesting. I enjoyed a lot. The anime was good, but it has this weird balancing game to play, right? Blue Box is a series that is half romance and half sports, and like, I think I care about the romance much more than the sports. Whenever the sports gets there, I'm sleeping, not gonna lie. But that's okay. I mean, it's just a real hard balance to hit, you know? And I think the romance that it gets is very good at the end of the day. Like Chinatsu and Taiki together, man, that kind of goes hard. The only thing that's making me waver right now, like I'll put it like over here maybe, but like if you've been reading it recently, they kind of, spoiler alert, they get together, the main couple. Wow, they get together in a romance? That's no way! That's crazy! But like, the moment Taiki and Chinatsu, the main two, get together, I think the author just kind of ran out of ideas. So like, the secondary romances that are going on right now are kinda garbage. I hate to say it. So like, it's good for like the first half, probably more, and then you read the romances now and you're like, wow, the author, it seems like the author has no idea what to do. Like, did this guy expect this series to get canceled within like 50 chapters and just not think of anything past the main romance? Any chapter that's not about the main duo right now is low-key painful to read. So I think that means I will put it... Is it more enjoyable than Sakamoto Days? No. Go here. And we'll move Sakamoto Days up by enjoyability. Now we get to everyone's favorite, Kagurabachi. I think this is the series, straight up, that has the most potential. It can go the furthest. Kagurabachi, chapter 1, and you already got the community speaking out. You got friggin' Batman covers referencing Kagurabachi. This series has the potential, if it gets a good anime adaptation, to go the distance. This, I think, could get on the level of the Major Jump series. Is it good, however? I'm gonna put it here. It's good, don't get me wrong. I think like the action is super well choreographed, the way it's paneled out. I think you get deeper in and it's like, a series really is a metaphor for nuclear bombing and like, wow, in a shonen magazine? Alright. But like at the same time, it is a lot of text for an action shonen. The story's good. The story is very good. Like the arc with if you laugh you go to hell girl, like that kind of had me teared up. It was good. But like on a chapter to chapter reading basis, is it enjoyable? Yeah, but like by far not as much as the other ones. Maybe I'm just illiterate. You know what? Maybe I'm just illiterate. But for me personally, I don't think Kagurabachi strikes like my favorite balance of story and action. I think it's like a lot of story or a lot of action. And I like the lot of action chapters. A lot of story chapters here and there. Moving on to the Elusive Samurai. Elusive Samurai is a historical drama about the Tokiyuki clan and they're fighting against Ashikaga in, I don't know, hey, okay, let me search this up. Late Kamakura, early Muromachi. I knew that. Yeah, I knew that. Most importantly, though, this series is written by Yusei Matsui, which is the writer of Assassination Classroom. And dude, you can see how this guy's skills has improved from Assassination Classroom. I think what that manga did so well was just be the master of exaggeration. You know, you have a middle school class killing people, You got these crazy villains who take it so much further than even other ordinary shonen take it, which is why I think this is like kind of a perfect fit for a historical series. Every so often the manga will pull back the curtain and say like, oh, we don't really know this about this historical figure. That is why we depicted him like this. And you can kind of see Matsui's exaggeration lead into that then. You know, you have a character that's like super important in history, but like history doesn't really record what this guy does. So you make the character like a master of disguise. You never show his face. I think that's just like brilliant. If you watch the anime, and the anime is very good in certain parts, that conveys it too. I think Takauji as a villain is maybe one of my favorite villains in the last little while. The way he's shown as just like a maniac who barely even realizes he's a maniac, and the way that translates onto the page is like no shortstop of brilliant. Because I think the villains and the historical aspects is really where this series shine. You got like horse guy, you got like eye and ear guy. We're gonna get throat guy and complete the trifecta, I swear, I swear. The only thing about this manga is that it is historical, which I think automatically makes it kind of pretentious and hard to follow. Because like obviously if you're like following historical events, there's gonna be like a billion characters who vary in importance. And like I enjoy it. I do very much enjoy it. More than Blue Box at this point. More than Blue Box. Is it quality? It is quality. Yeah, but I think like its historical factor for a lot of people will detract from it. But what am I saying? This is my list. Who cares? This is how much I enjoy it. Okay. You know what? I enjoy it as much as it's... Wow, Sakamoto Days is not visible right now. Alright, Sakamoto Days gets boosted just so you can see his glass. Me and Roboco. Roboco is about elementary schooler who lives in a world with order maids, like robot maids who do their stuff. And then he gets one day, but it's Roboco, who is like this weird, wacky robot order maid who may or may not have fought in the Great War. And they get into like wacky, zany antics. I wouldn't be surprised if people haven't heard about the series despite how it's had like an anime and like a movie is coming out. It's just not great. And like I feel like Shonen Jump gag series aren't meant to be great. They're meant to be kinda trashy. But like this one is like for grade schoolers. Like the way I'd put Roboco is like every 5 out of 6 times the chapters will just not be funny. But the 6th time? I mean, it's okay. It's okay. And like I think Roboco is super trashy also because the chapters I enjoy most are the ones where it's just parodying another Jump series. I had one with Akane-banashi like a few weeks ago, and you know what? I was pretty funny. I was like, reference! I know that reference! But I think that also kind of detracts from it. Roboco is also what I would call the shill manga. Every time like an anime happens or like a Jump thing happens, Roboco will be like, yep, this sure is happening. And that will be what the chapter is about for that week. I had a chapter about the friggin' National Japanese Football League or whatever. And it was solely there just to be like, wow, look how cool these guys are. And they're collaborating with Roboco? That's crazy. So I think just for that, it's like kinda sloppy. Oh, that and a few other things. I'd say more often than not, it is not enjoyable. But you know, it has its moments. So we'll go close. Like here. Yeah, there feels right. It's not axe bait though. Somehow this series has persisted for 5 years and I can see it going for longer. I don't know why every other gag series failed when Roboco is still alive and kicking. It's not very good, but it's here to stay, I guess. Witch Watch had an anime recently. Megumi Ishitani, director of One Piece Fan Letter and like a bunch of the other famous One Piece episodes, directed the OP. Lily Pichu is in a starring role in the dub for some reason. But yeah, it's pretty good. Witch Watch is about a witch named Nico who has to live with like 3, then 4 hot men who like act as her bodyguards, and then they get into like magic shenanigans. Pretty enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's very quality, But you know, it's there. If you're following the manga, you know the story has taken like a weird turn for the past year or so. But that doesn't mean it's not been like fun and good. But especially early on, I think some Witch Watch chapters were like kinda tough to get through. Just like not funny things happening in a comedy series. Especially like they have this like running story about two side characters, a teacher and a student. And the student is like a doujin creator, not that kind of doujin, like the fan work material kind of doujin. And like the whole gag is the teacher is like an absolute fanboy of the student's work. So like every speech bubble is like filled to the brim with words. And like, yeah, that's very funny for the first time. And then they keep doing it. And I feel obligated to read the entire thing because it's there. And it's not great. Maybe this is just showing I'm illiterate, actually. This Kagurabachi first, then this, whatever. That side story also has a panel of a lion getting crucifixed in his underwear, so maybe it's not that bad. And like every so often, I think there's a page in Witch Watch that really hits a certain part of me. It can be very tender and just heartfelt sometimes, which is always a plus. Oh yeah, it's also a romance, by the way. Will they, won't they? They won't. It's gonna be like an end of series thing, but it's there and it's fun to see, so bonus points for that, I guess. Rom-com enjoyers, where you at? I think it's enjoyable, but probably the least quality series in this kind of quadrant. That's okay though, that's okay. Move it up a bit. Akane-banashi recently announced to have an anime, which is like super hype. Akane-banashi tells the story of a young girl who gets into Rakugo, and it's like a battle shonen, but as Rakugo. One of my favorite things is the non-battle battle shonen. It's like Shokugeki no Soma, stuff like that. And like, honestly, you want my honest opinion? Goes right here. This series is good, man. It's good. The way it conveys Rakugo and like every technique as like its own special anime power, and the way it has such a love for not just Rakugo but the art of telling stories is like kind of becomes meta-textual in a way. I think honestly Akane-banashi somehow has like the best tournament arc, or the best first tournament arc I've seen in a long while. It's just so good at conveying Rakugo as battle and like translating audience laughs and like judges into successes and losses. It's just so good. Translated by the GOAT, Stephen Paul. Just want to show that out. It's just fantastic on all fronts. And if the anime doesn't treat this just as a chance to not animate legs and like puts that animation quality into the Rakugo telling, this could be it. This could be one of the greats, I'm telling. It is just fantastic on all fronts. It's not One Piece level, because like nothing is One Piece level, and also it's still relatively new. I want to see it pushed a little further, but we'll get there. Kill Blue actually ended the week I'm recording this, but also got an anime announced, which is very nice for it. Kill Blue is the story of a middle-aged assassin who gets stung by like a wasp or something, I don't remember, and gets turned into a kid where he has to be an assassin in middle school. It's okay. It's like the most okay series I've read in a while. It's by, I think, the Kuroko no Basket author. Let me double check. Yeah, and like it's aight. Kinda the bigger plot of it is that he has to like protect this middle school girl who's the daughter of the president of like a big corporation, and it's very funny because he has to pretend to date this girl, and like basically every chapter in the Manga Plus comments there's just guys saying bro's not beating the allegations, which is very funny. I just think like the series has its moments. It's cool sometimes, it's funny sometimes, but most of the time it's just kind of there. I don't hate reading it, but I also don't think it's particularly good. So I think honestly we just leave it where it is. Yes, Kill Blue is true neutral. Okay, Nui's Exorcist. Oh man, I hate this series so much. From chapter 1, I knew this series was slop. It's always been slop. But you know what else has happened since chapter 1? Like novel reader recommendations. This series was praised by the friggin' Railgun author. Like, yeah, I really see the potential in this series. A series constantly in Japan tops the friggin' manga I want to see turned into anime charts. And like, man, of course it's this. He's Exorcist is the story of a high school boy who fights demons and has the vouch and power of the most powerful demon or whatever. And he keeps running into high school girls who all wanna sleep with him, who all fall in love with him. Oh boy, can you see where this is going? It's protagonist, man. Go through the first chapter. He only makes the or the face. The art is not good, bro, and the series and the plot is so uninteresting. Every other chapter, it's like, Nui says, in order to train, we have to hold hands, but I'm so bashful because I love this guy. And the main character is just sitting there like, I will fight. I am a good man who does good thing. Like, bro, it's so boring. It's so boring. The art is rough, which it slowly got better over the course of like 4 years. But that doesn't mean it's good. So like the only good thing about every battle is that there's less text so I can zoom through it faster. And it doesn't even have the guts to do like actual ecchi. It's just in this weird zone where I think it's meant for like 12-year-olds. Like, oh, it's getting raunchy. When in reality, it's not even the 8th of like actual ecchi series in Jump. Like, so it's just the worst of both worlds. I think the only redeeming quality of it is that it's generic, which means its plot isn't bad. It's just very boring. So I can't call it the worst of the worst, but it does, I think, go here. Is it Axe Bait? No. It's gonna get an anime, and it'll be slightly popular, and I will be very mad. But moving on here to the next row, we have basically every series that started in 2024 or later. This is like truly the new generation of Jump. We have a few series here that started like just a couple months ago, and some that have a bit more meat on their bones. But with that said, we are going to start with Ichi the Witch. I think the series, just over a year old at this point, already has a little bit of buzz behind it, and I think that is pretty well deserved. Author of Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun, and illustrator from Act Age, I think they make for a great duo, and I think this series is like well deserving of the praise it gets right now. A lot of the chapters are just so exciting. Ichi the Witch tells the story of Ichi, who in a world of only female witches who hunt magics, is able to kill one of the most powerful magics and becomes the first male witch. While all the witches are like high class and civilized, Ichi was born in the wilderness and uses some of his wild tendencies to fight magics and save the world. Ichi isn't plot-wise anything special. I think the last arc was going in some interesting directions, but kind of leveled off into your like kind of usual shonen area. But that doesn't mean it's not special in other ways. I think the aesthetic, the art style is obviously super nice. I'm so glad the Act Age illustrator was able to come back. The character designs, the magic designs, I think even if they don't behave in ways that haven't, already been played out, it's still kind of special. I've been missing this kind of just straight fantasy series in Jump. Mashal does not count. It's just really been a joy to have Ichi around. And I think that's it. Even if Ichi isn't the most original, it's just straight enjoyable. It's fun to see this guy like run around and do his own thing. It's fun to see Descares be like kinda a jerk. It's just fun to see. And I think if you just let this series keep going, it will just keep getting better and better. And honestly, I could see this series be one of the headlining series for Jump. I think it has that potential if it just keeps up momentum and is like able to break out of the mold. And so that's why I think I'm gonna put it here. Just slightly less enjoyable than Akane-banashi. Shinobi Undercover. I like this series, and I don't think enough people talk about it. The series stars Yodaka, a shinobi who is tasked with guarding a rich girl in high school, but the only problem is this guy is extremely socially awkward, and doesn't fit in. Many antics and action ensue. Now, I actually found out about the illustrator like years ago, way before the manga even came out, and like what this guy does on Twitter with these kind of rotoscope style is beautiful. So I've always had this great appreciation for the art of the series. I think the rom-com part is pretty well done. I like to see it played out. There's this amazing page in like the first chapter that I will not stop laughing at. And like, I love that Yodaka's signature ability at this point is reducing his mental stack. Like, that is extremely funny to me. That being said, I don't think this series is like great or anything. It's just enjoyable. It does kind of just fulfill the mold of being another ninja series for Jump, you know? The ninjas have their own special ability called Kekai, which is like their bloodline technique or whatever. I don't think that's like especially special. And like the action is well drawn, but I think at the end of the day, the series just kind of blends in with the crowd a bit too much. But like it's still only a year old. I think he has time to like break out of the mold. It's just tough when you're reading like all of these series weekly. In Shonen Jump, you really do need to do something special that's not just generic. That said, still very enjoyable. I just don't think the quality is up there. Let's go here. Hima-ten. This right here is my personal op. Hima-ten tells the story of Iemori, a high school boy who is a cleaner and gets hired by Himari, a high school model who he forms a connection with. However, Iemori has a crush on a black-haired girl at school, but tensions between him and Himari are rising. Who will he choose? Will there be more women who he meets? Who knows? Like, okay, I'm not gonna mince words here. It goes here. Hima-ten, I think, hits something very personal. I think just recently I've kind of grown out of the whole high school romance, which doesn't help, obviously. But I just think Hima-ten does the most obvious things in the most obvious manner, which just pisses me off. Like, yeah, obviously, the third love interest is a high school grabber model. I really hope those don't actually exist, but moving on. Yeah, of course, the next girl they introduce is a former idol. She's now also Iemori's homeroom teacher, okay? Like, this is clearly so fan servicey and self-inserty that I just can't help it. It's just insufferable. And like the scenarios they put this guy through with the girls, like pretend to be a couple for the school fair, like, oh boy, I have to clean this girl's underwear. It's like so obvious. It just takes the easy way out over and over again. And like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, the art's good, the girls are cute, but this series is like a guy obviously trying to sell you a poisoned apple. Like, there is green goo dripping off it and it smells like it's about to explode, but the vendor's like, sure has that nice red shine. Yep, that girl sure does have boobies. Does that metaphor even make sense? And hey, I'm sure if this is like the first romance you read, you'll love it. And you know what? I had that too, you know? Shonen romance Nisekoi. Like, even Nisekoi had a little bit of sauce. Guys in the Yakuza, girls in the mob, convoluted love triangle, but there's like a mysterious backstory around it. Even if it wasn't much, it was something. I feel like I'm offended by how generic these guys are. Like, why does every girl fall in love with Iemori? He's kind, obviously. No other reason. He doesn't need any other character traits. He's just there. And like, maybe I'm getting mad at a friggin' shonen romance for no reason. Like, I should expect this. But like, I feel like I can expect more out of shonen romances in this day and age. Like, we gotta progress past this point. And like, yeah, okay, fine. It's quality in some ways. I'm sure when the anime comes out, it will be very popular and I will be very sad. Is it readable? Yes, but it is far from enjoyable. I would read 100 chapters of Roboco before I read 1 chapter of Hima-ten. And that's why it goes here. Just personal vendetta, honestly. I'm putting it down, actually. It is not better quality than Shinobi Undercover. Better than Kill Blue? Yeah, it's it's more quality than Kill Blue. I'm sorry. Yeah, I respect Kill Blue more, but that does not mean it is better at manipulating the people. Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi. This manga tells the story of Kiyoshi, who is a super powerful exorcist who fights demons and goes to a crazy exorcist school. And you know what, honestly, I'm just kinda glad we're past this point of being overwhelmed with Exorcist series. If you follow the magazine at all, you know that after JJK got popular, like every other series was trying to be an Exorcist series and it was horrible. As you can see here, we've kind of slowed down from that, which is good. And like, Kiyoshi's alright. Kiyoshi's alright. I believe the author was a previous assistant for Oda and got like the Oda vouch on it. And like, I can definitely see why. You read Kiyoshi and you go, wow, this feels like a series that is written in like the early 2000s. It's got some pretty good art. It's got some pretty alright characters, even though they are kind of tropey. A lot of the big attacks are named after movies, which I thought was kind of cool. And they made Satan like this demon who has almost like a homoerotic relationship with Kiyoshi, which is kind of funny to see play out. But like, this series just feels old, man. It feels old. You see how the characters act around each other and like certain character arcs. It sure does feel like this guy learned from someone whose manga started in the 90s. A lot of tropes and a lot of plot points, it does just feel a bit outdated at this point. Like, we're in 2025 and we're still doing the mentor who had an old friend who turned evil. The humor, also, I don't really know how to describe it, just feels old. And you know what, maybe that's okay, maybe you're into that. I just can't see it progress past a certain point. Like, it'll always be okay, but it will never be great at what it does, I think. It's very successful right now, though. Very successful. A lot of color pages, a lot of front of the magazining. Some people drive with it, maybe you will too. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Just a bit too derivative for my liking. Which is why it goes here. Maybe even a bit lower. Kaedegami. Kaedegami tells the story of an orphan who lives in a world full of demons called Shingwai. And he's raised by a Shingwai named Chiyu and has to travel around the land to find parts of Chiyu's body that she lost all those years ago in some big battle. And like, I like the format of these kind of manga, you know? Like slowly rebuilding the powerful character to their former strength. And it's also like kind of Chinesey, which is very dope to see. I like the aesthetic. This is one of the newer series, only 10 chapters in, so it's hard to judge right now, but I think it has potential. What it's shown so far is interesting enough where I would recommend it. I'd say give it a read. It's kind of gooner baity, you know, Chiyu sure does got that body and sure does love doting on the main character, you know? But like overall, I think obviously it's way too early to say, but I could see this if the series doesn't get cancelled. I could see this series going places. For now though, I think I will just put it here. Yeah, it's definitely more on the trashy side. Harukaze Mound, another one of the newer series. Harukaze Mound tells the story of two twins, one Aokaze, who's like really good at baseball, and the other Nagiharu, who's like kinda bad at baseball. They're close, and then they go their separate ways, so Nagiharu can become like the best pitcher in the world or whatever and catch up to Aokaze. Then they will probably fight later. It's a baseball sports manga, you know the drill. Now Harukaze Mound is actually written by the duo that did Phantom Seer all the way back then, which you might not have heard of, but was a series in Weekly Shonen Jump that was like booming. It had some of the best horror, maybe the only horror in Jump, and just had this great striking art style and sense for battle and action. And it was like suddenly canceled for like kind of no reason. So like when I heard this series was announced, I was like super excited. However, when I saw it was a baseball manga, that's a different story. Baseball manga. Not great. Hard to do. There's a lot of waiting around in baseball. But it's doable. It's doable. Does Harukaze Mound do it well? I mean, the art is good. I think it is painfully generic though. Everything you would expect to happen in a sports manga kinda happens in Harukaze Mound. Once again, disclaimer, this one is only about 10 chapters in, so it could, who knows, maybe it could improve from here, but as we have it right now, it's just okay, if not kind of bad. This is a manga that has like the young upstart who's bad at the game, but has like this special skill that if he trains it well, will go very far. And like, it has all the tropes. He goes to an underdog school. He has that great rival who's always waiting and looking out for him. He has the friggin' analytical guy with black hair and glasses. I swear, if I see an analytical guy with black hair and glasses in your manga, I immediately respect it less. It's really early to say, but I'm honestly just not feeling this series right now. I was expecting a lot from this duo, but maybe baseball is just a bad sport that we shouldn't make manga out of. Ever think of that? That's why I think it will go here. Ping Pong Peril. Another one of the new serializations. Now, if you want to know anything about me, I'm a big Ping Pong Peril guy. Ping Pong Peril tells the story of Tyra, who is in a lot of debt because of his father, and has to fight it out in deadly ping pong matches. Now, this series is extremely stupid. When we say extreme ping pong matches, we mean this guy goes to a bathhouse to relax and gets jump scared by the attendant and has to play ping pong with friggin' buckets in the bathhouse while being naked. Like, the match right now is this guy fighting against a high school teacher who takes steroids and gets powered up because he hallucinates his favorite anime girl is cheering for him. This series is so funny. We're only 8 chapters in right now, but like, Ping Pong Peril low-key is one of the series I look forward to the most. Is it good? No. Is it fun? So much so. The art is kinda bad, the characters are kinda dumb, but it is nothing but creative and balls to the walls. And I love it all the more for it. I think I can easily call this as close to peak slop as we're getting. And I will be extremely sad, but not at all surprised when this gets axed within like 10 more chapters. Okay, Ekiden Bros, the last of the latest batch of new serializations. Now, I am biased. Running manga, running anime, kinda peak. Run with a Whim back in the day, I was kinda in there, you know. Uma Musume? That's running! I'm in there! So Ekiden Bros being about a guy just training to become the greatest runner, that got me looking. I think the first chapter really got me. However, as the series progresses, as much as it can progress in 9 chapters, I think I'm becoming a bit less and less enthused about it. I think running is definitely one of the harder sports to convey power and stuff, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's someone like running in a line. And so especially if you want to convey that in like a shonen way, you're gonna have to be very creative with what you do. And like, the manga's shown a bit of potential, but I just don't think it's all there, unfortunately. The art's kind of weird, not bad weird, but maybe not what you'd expect for a sports manga, if you can call this a sports manga. They've got the friggin' black hair and glasses guy, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to deduct 200 points from its cool score. I'm always glad to see this manga in the magazine, but like, it's low-key axe bait. It's not great. Had some interesting stuff with like the time skip and the guy going from high school to university, but that gets resolved pretty quickly and we're kind of left with some generic-ish characters and a sport I feel like the author doesn't really know how to convey well. So unfortunately, while I like it, it might be worse than Roboco. I just unfortunately don't think the mangaka is experienced enough to tell the story that they wanted to. And we get to the final 2. And these 2 series were part of a batch that was rolled out around May of this year, so they're newer but been around the block for a while. And we're gonna start with Odor of the Flame. I was kinda hyped for this manga, I'll admit. It was by the author of Red Hood back in the day, which was a series that very unfortunately got axed. I think if it didn't, it could have gone a lot farther, but we leave it as it is. Odor of the Flame tells the story of Odor, who in this Viking kinda land finds a fire spear and has to use it to become a hero and fight against the Ice Kingdom. So is the manga good? I can unfortunately only think of that one tweet about flopping. Odor is in many ways technically good. The art, astounding in places, very good. I look at some pages and I'm just like, wow, I would love to see more of this. This is beautiful. This is art here. I read parts of the story and I'm like, wow, maybe this should be cancelled. It's not bad, it's just kind of boring. I feel like I have some trouble getting into the whole Viking aesthetic. The last Jump manga that had that was Icehead Gil, and we all know how that went. This manga definitely has potential. The characters are pretty interesting, but I just don't think how the plot progresses displays them the best. Odor himself is kind of boring and just is currently kind of going through the motions of what you would expect from a shonen. Beat the guy, free the guy, so on and so forth. There's a group of elite evil guys that he has to take down one by one, yada yada yada. We're obviously only 16 chapters in, so it could improve, but judging by how it's been placed in the magazine, I unfortunately don't think we're getting that far. Very unfortunate double strikeout for this mangaka, but that's okay, we keep moving. I think eventually one of these will hit because this mangaka is definitely talented. I just don't think Odor is exactly it, which is a shame because in a lot of ways it definitely has the ingredients to be a hit. It's just, I just don't think it comes together all that well, which is why I think it will go here. Better than Hima-ten? Kinda, but not by much. More readable than Roboco, I guess. And we have our last manga, Nice Prison. Nice Prison follows the story of a guy who is a super prisoner. What is a super prisoner? Just a really strong guy, I guess, who like tries to keep other prisoners under control. It's like the Stanford Prison Experiment. This is a gag manga that is very absurdist, and if I'm being honest, is probably the worst thing I've ever read. It's so bad I will even move Nue's up a bit because even I can tell Nue's is not as bad as Nice Prison. So what is redeeming about Nice Prison? Okay, maybe it's easier to talk about what Nice Prison is bad at first, actually. Nice Prison, okay. Art style, garbage. Not great. Shonen Jump has this very funny thing where since it's a weekly series, if you have good art, very often it will get worse. I see you, JJK. And if you have bad art, it will just get terrible. Shonen Jump is not for the weak. And like, Nice Prison sure is showing that right now. I've never seen uglier characters in my life. Nice Prison is trying to do this whole absurdist thing where things just kind of happen, but I feel like it just doesn't do it right. Like, you have a straight man, sure, but that doesn't mean you have the straight man to go exact into, like, why everything is so absurd and kooky. Like, just let the absurdity rock sometimes, you know? You don't have to explain it. I feel like this is a problem with a lot of Japanese comedies, actually. I feel like in this way, it kind of ruins some jokes that hit or would hit and just, like, kind of takes me out of it. It's also low-key doing this thing where, like, if a gag manga is unsuccessful, they'll try to pivot into being, like, a battle shonen. And, like, it's a much worse battle shonen than it is a gag manga. And it's already, like, a bad gag manga. So it's just really bad right now. And one thing that I found very funny was, like, in some chapters, I think it didn't hit the page count it needed. So the author was like, okay, we'll just throw in some 4 comas. Yeah, why not? And they are completely unrelated to what is happening to the main manga. And they're also very unfunny. So that's awesome. This series is only 18 chapters in, but it already seems to be on its way out, which should tell you a little bit something about the manga. And you know what, to its credit, Nice Prison is one of those manga that are so bad that like you just can't help but read it. Every chapter is only like 15 pages, so it's not a slog to get through or anything. And you know, it's just like a car crash. You can't take your eyes off it, you know, no matter how bad it is. So in some ways it is more readable than other manga on this list, but I am not willing to move it from that bottom corner. Gag manga, I think, in Jump are just kinda cursed, let's be honest. Anyone remember Protect Me Shugomaru? Anyone remember Ichigoki is out of control? No? I wonder why. So that is technically all of the manga in Shonen Jump, but I said I would rank all of them, so we have 2 bonus series that I did not talk about. The first one is Hunter x Hunter, which honestly I have not read. Sorry, I said I read everything in Jump, and that is true for the majority of the years, but not for the weeks when Hunter x Hunter comes back for some reason. I watched the anime up to New York New, and like, it's pretty good. Maybe I'll get to it eventually. It probably goes like year. That seems mean. Year. That's just based on vibes and like what people tell me though. I think this is a position where if I put it here, no one will get mad at me, so we're gonna leave it there. And finally, we have Ruri Dragon, which is one of my favorites. It technically started in Jump, but due to the unfortunate circumstances of the author's health, was moved to Jump Plus. But even in the short stint that it had in Weekly Shonen Jump, it garnered quite the fan base, and I think is doing quite well right now. So Ruri Dragon is the story of Ruri, a high school girl who finds herself to be a dragon, and it's just kind of a slice of life series showing how she deals with that and how she deals with normal high school stuff. The great thing about Ruri Dragon is just how laid back it is. It really is taking these fantastical elements and belittling it so much it just becomes part of normal life again, which is something that I think the series is really advocating for. You can kind of see the ways that Ruri's character traits and like Ruri's characteristics of being a dragon can be translated into, you know, normal life things that make kids unique, but also might make them like a bit harder to fit in school. So I think that's nice. And you know, it does that whole thing, like, what matters more to the people around her is not Ruri being a dragon, but how she handles herself in social situations and what kind of person she is. And so it's a series about Ruri coming out of her shell in more ways than one. And the manga just has this lovely art style that makes Ruri so cute. Whether it's breathing fire and almost immolating a guy, or like filling a classroom with ice, I just can't help but love it. Everything's so cute, everything's so laid back and taken in, I think, like the perfect direction. The drama isn't too melodramatic for a slice of life series, and it's really just an enjoyable read all around. The only problem with the series is because of the author's health conditions, it comes out like once every 3 weeks, which makes me very sad, but prioritize health, guys. I think you'll probably already know if you'll like this series or not just by looking at it, let's be honest. And I am one of those people, so I think it goes here. At the end of the day, I don't think the series is like the GOAT of slice of life, or like uses that genre's principles to its highest standard, but like it's still great. And we're still 30-ish chapters in. It'll go further from there. So this is the current state of Shonen Jump in 2025 as I see it. Okay, due to even more unfortunate circumstances, this video also took way longer than it was supposed to. So in the time that it took for life to start settling down again, a few things happened. First and foremost, Nice Prison, Ekiden Bros, and Ping Pong Peril, rest in peace, have ended. Also Kill Blue, I honestly kind of forgot about that one, but I did mention it in that section, so we're good. They're all either already over or on their way out as I recorded that first segment, so my opinion doesn't really change of any of that. It's just how life goes. In addition to that, 5 whole series started up. Just to make sure mysterious life circumstances don't pop up again and something terrible happens, I'm gonna do my best to speed through these and be on our merry way. As some of these series literally only have like 1 chapter as of I'm recording this, it's not like I have that much to say about them anyways. Starting off with Someone Hurts. Someone Hurts is about a high school duo who love listening to this late night comedy program and both submit jokes to it in order to become, I don't know, the best late night one-liner comedian, I guess. I don't know, it's also kind of like a rom-com, so there's that too. Very cute, and also maybe the first super successful series of the new ones. I think I've seen more fan art of this series than like anything else within the past 2 years combined. Because the manga is super centered around one-liners and comedic bits, it doesn't exactly always translate well to English, but David Evelyn, the translator, does a pretty good job from what I'd say. And like, even if the jokes aren't funny, I do appreciate them being there. The art style is very cute, and the relationship between the 2 main characters is also very cute. Overall, it's a very solid slice of lifey, light comedy series, and I always appreciate reading it. Which means I think it will go... probably still less than Sakamoto Days. It's like exactly the same quality as Witch Watch, maybe? Nah, less quality than Witch Watch. Here. For visibility's sake, and also because of what has been happening recently in the manga, I will also be moving Blue Box like that much down. Okay, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo. JJK Modulo is the sequel to JJK, taking place 80 or so years into the future, and following Yuta's grandkids as they go around fighting curses as usual, alongside an alien boy who is trying to ascertain whether Japan is friendly enough to establish long-term connections with their little alien race. This is where it's going to be extremely challenging for me to keep this brief because I have so many thoughts on JJK. I'm probably going to make like a 2-hour video on it at some point in my life. But to sum up my opinions on the original as quick as possible, while JJK really is the perfect aura and hype moments manga in a lot of ways, it seems like Gege wants to make the story deeper than it is, and I'm like, I feel like you should just go back to fighting, to be honest. JJK Modulo is, on the other hand, not solely created by Gege Akutami. You also have Yuji Iwasaki on the art side, who did the art for a series called Cypher Academy, which was in the magazine a few years back, and I was a big fan of that manga. So by extension, I'm kind of also a big fan of Yuji's art style. I don't exactly think they are a good match for each other, on the other hand. Trying to not get too technical or think about it too hard, I just think Yuji's art style is very nice and bubbly and cute, and for a series like JJK, I think everything should be a lot of straight lines and points. On the writing side, I think Gege is also just trying to go a little bit too out of his depth again. Like, what do you mean the aliens are an allegory for immigration into Japan? What do you mean they're refugees stemming from a debacle over resource control? I'm glad that Gege is trying to go out of his way and pull these more interesting and more complex elements into a shonen manga. I just don't think he's the kind of writer who can pull that off right now. JJK Modulo is already set for a shorter length, so it kind of feels like Gege is justifying himself in having certain cliches and making certain shortcuts in the manga. And like, one thing that super really irks me is that it's explicitly stated that everyone in this world right now is much weaker than everyone in the original JJK world. Like, why would you make everyone a lot less interesting and less powerful than your original manga? I get bored every time I look at the main characters in the eye. So like, overall, while I think there's still a lot to like in this manga, the fights so far have been really interesting and I've been really vibing with the powers they've showed. I don't think it crosses that line for me of quality. I'd even say Odor's better. And with this next batch of 3 series, these have basically just come out, so everything I say is very much subject to change and should just be treated as super early impressions. Okay, Gonron Egg. Gonron Egg tells the story of a fallen world where humanity is under servitude of demons, where this guy named Gonron finds an egg and gains the power to battle against them. This series is very strange and not in the good way. Not good. Like, okay, art, characters, story, etc, etc, etc. I do not think Gonron Egg does a great job of any of that. But one thing I will say is that it is at least a unique setting with a unique-ish direction. Like, that guy really does just have an egg for some reason. That's kind of funny. So while I don't think it's very quality, it does save it from being the most trashy, most unreadable thing, in my opinion. Yeah, there. Okay, The Mage Next Door. The Mage Next Door tells the story of a guy in the mage world who is sent to the human world to catch other mages who are doing bad things to other people. And this guy is also like the strongest mage or whatever, but he only uses very strange spells. I think especially after the success of solo leveling, we're gonna come in with another influx of these kind of like stoic protagonists who are like overpowered and better than everyone, which isn't personally my favorite, but at the very least, in this series, his powers are kind of interesting because, well, everyone's using water, fire, and electric or whatever. He's using mundane spells that would make your life like slightly more convenient, but in like a battle setting. So that's kind of cool. This is an action manga more on the gaggier side, and I think for the most part, it is pretty fun to see what creative spell this guy will use next to take down the baddies. And while I wouldn't say it's the best series in the world, it definitely is comfortable, and I have enjoyed reading it so far. And that is why I think it will go here. Oh shoot. Oh yeah, also Kaedegami ended. I forgot about that. And finally, for real this time, we have Hero Girl and Demon Lord Call It Quits. Hero Girl and Demon Lord is about the hero of the realm and the demon lord of the realm deciding to stop fighting each other and just become normal people in their lives again. Hero Girl decides to enroll into high school, and Demon Lord acts as like the parental figure, I guess, and lazes about also. I am literally judging off just a single chapter of this manga, but bear with me. This manga's aight. I think whenever you pull in elements from traditional RPGs, you kind of have this stigma of being associated with like the bottom of the barrel in anime, which might be a light novel problem, but whatever. And in the ways that like the two main characters are depicted, you kind of do get a trashy vibe. But that doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. I do like seeing the two main characters interact, and I am also interested in where the hero girl fitting into high school life thing goes from here. Overall, it does seem kind of like a fun time. I could definitely see it getting better from just the first chapter, or I guess I should say just less trashy. But I do not live in the future, so I will rate it based on the one chapter I read. And I think it's going here. This position could change in literally 3 weeks, but I think it's fine to leave there for now. Okay, there we go. So this is my real final completed list right now. And is there any quick adjustments I want to make before I move on? I think in the past month or two, Oda's gotten a lot better. The art's getting time to shine again, and they introduced a bunch more interesting characters, so I think that's enough to move it up in both enjoyability and quality. Also, Lived, is that not crazy? Like $100 that it was gonna get cancelled, am I right? As time has gone on, I also think I've been enjoying Witch Watch more and more. Overall, it's just a very solid series. I wouldn't say I would change its quality rating, but I do really look forward to reading it every week now. Looking back on this list, I think it's really funny where I put Hunter x Hunter. I'm literally saying I like reading Blue Box and Sakamoto Days better than Hunter x Hunter, but once again, based on vibes. But even then, that feels a bit slanderous, right? So here, let's compromise. I'll move it up on the quality scale, but say I like to read it less than Witch Watch. I am gonna get crucified out there. Someone get JJK Modulo down from there. Gonna space everything out just a bit so it's a lot more readable. And So this is the current state of Shonen Jump in 2025 as I see it. If we look at the distribution, honestly, Jump is doing pretty well right now. A lot of things in the blue. We look at the things in the green though, and like that's half the magazine. That's not great. But at the same time, I think this is kind of what you would expect from the magazine. You'll hear about half of Jump and the other half will be lost to the ashes and never be spoken about again, except for YouTube reviews going over failed series. And at the same time, I feel like Shonen Jump doesn't need to be the ultra successful magazine it was before. In Super Eyepatch Wolf's last video on the current state of Shonen Jump, he talked about how he thinks the future of Jump lies on the online magazine, which is Jump Plus, and I think all we've seen is that future play out. The series that are really booming right now are in Plus. Stuff like Spy X Family or Kaiju number 8. Those are Jump Plus series. Jump really much more so exists to be that meat grinder that spits out every series that isn't able to overcome the weekly release schedule and sharpens the skills and efforts of the ones who are able to. With the way that the magazine is run, I think it's bound to have, honestly, like half of the manga in it bomb. And that's okay. So is Shonen Jump getting worse right now? Yes and no. In a lot of ways, it's looking up for the magazine, but also in a lot of ways, it doesn't need to regain the valor it lost in the last few years with the rise of things like Shonen Jump Plus. Personally, I am very excited to see where Jump goes from here. But in any case, thanks so much for making it this far into the video. If this video does well, maybe I'll do a similar ranking for the Shonen Jump Plus series I read. And because of, once again, extenuating circumstances, please like the video and subscribe if possible. Pattern recognition test. Next video that comes out is gonna be a lot more scripted, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I will see you guys next time. Bye.